There's some days I sign on to Twitter and I'm really excited to read the news. Today, it was a day like any other. I sign on, I'm excited to see what's happening, and then I see that PlayStation is now going to require that developers create a 2-hour timed demo for their games in the future. And people are celebrating this and the fact that it's going to be behind the highest cost tier of the revamped PlayStation Plus. What? If you like my videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell. And I feel like I'm in bizarro land right now because I'm just don't understand where people's minds are at these days. The idea that we are now celebrating the fact that developers have to do more work for their games to be on the PlayStation console, and the fact that you have to pay more money to play that experience that developers are required to make on PlayStation. It's insanity to me. It's just insane. So we celebrate that we pay $10 more for games. We celebrate that cloud saves are locked behind a paywall. We celebrate that devs now have to make these bespoke 2-hour demos. What is happening? Now, I realize all of you out there probably don't have context about what's been going on today. So let's read the news story that sparked this reaction for me. Timed game trials are now a requirement for some PlayStation developers. Sony is requiring some developers to create timed trials for their games to include in its PlayStation Plus premium plans. And as we'll discover, that is any game over $34. Sony has begun communicating with developers about its plans for timed game trials for PlayStation Plus premium subscribers. According to sources speaking to game developers working on games that have a wholesale cost of $34 or higher, so most good games, like most AAA games, are now required to create time-limited game trials for their games. Update: this number was previously referred to as the retail pricing. It has been updated to reflect that it refers to wholesale pricing. Developing a 2-hour experience for people to do requires additional development time for the developers. They will have to go out of the way to answer this demand, and that is just absolutely ridiculous. And Sony is going to get pushback for this. And I have to imagine that a few developers are just going to straight up say, no, we're not going to do that. We do not have the development resources to do that. And I'm going to be very curious to see how that affects PlayStation releases in the near future. I don't know how you spin that as a positive. Sony is requiring developers to do more work for them to be on their platform. It's going back in time to when they charged developers who would decide to put crossplay on their games. Oh, you have to pay us a cut. Sony, look, you're on top right now, but I don't know if you've seen the sales numbers lately, but Xbox is catching up. You need to knock it off with this garbage. It's not good for the dev, and it's not good for the consumer at the end of the day. And you know what's especially not good for the consumer? Putting a 2-hour demo behind a paywall. So continuing the article here, these trial versions must be at least 2 hours long. Games that cost lower than these amounts are not required to create limited time trials, according to the new policy. The plan follows Sony's announcement for expanded subscription options for PlayStation Plus. So if you haven't been following, basically they're trying to buff up their PlayStation Plus Premium, which is by far the weakest tier of the PlayStation Plus revamp. Provides all the benefits from essential and extra tiers. I actually think those tiers are a great value. And I actually really do think extra is the sweet spot. So if you're looking to be a part of this, you get a ton of PS4 games, you get a ton of PS5 games. This is a pretty solid deal for extra. And honestly, the extra tier should have been the premium tier. And the stuff in the premium tier, the problem I have with it is it's just not explained as to what you're actually getting. They just sort of tell you you're going to get PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the extra and premium tiers in March. Oh, that's the cloud streaming. Sorry. But you get original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations, which includes the Vita. What PlayStation 1 games? PlayStation now had 16 PS2 games, and sure, that included Dark Cloud 1 and 2, great PlayStation 2 games, but what are you adding to it? We don't have any information about that. We have no idea what PSP and Vita games they're adding. We don't know what original PlayStation games they're adding. And I think there's a reason they're not telling us. Maybe because there's a potential that they're not that great. Adds up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games available via cloud streaming. Your PS3 library in PlayStation Now was around 400 games. So you're telling me you reduce the amount of PlayStation 3 games that are streamable? And also, the cloud streaming service never got good. So they're touting 700 plus games with this service, and it drives me nuts because everyone's like, oh, they have 700 plus games. Have you used the cloud streaming service? It sucks. It's 90% of the time you can't play a game without having game negative impact to gameplay, right? It's a problem and they need to address it. And I realize there's a whole thing about why they can't do PS3 games. You're telling me Mark Cerny is a genius. You're telling me Mark Cerny can't figure out how to do that? Or is maybe what happened? Or is maybe what is happening here that Mark Cerny does know how to do it, and Sony said, nah, we have some other plans about what to do in that case. Anyway. Isn't Jim Ryan quoted as saying something along the lines of, why would anybody ever play old games? Maybe he's backpedaled since then, but okay. They're trying to sell you this tier sucks. This is a bad tier. Provides all the benefits from extra and essential tiers. Okay, yeah, great. Those tiers are great. Adds up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games available via cloud streaming. So they've reduced the amount of PS3 games that are available for streaming. Great. Wonderful. Let's praise from the heavens for them giving us less for more. Or at least the same price. A catalog of beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from original PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and PSP generations. I want to know what games they are. I'm happy that they're downloadable. We have no idea what PlayStation 1 games there are. We don't know what PlayStation 2 games there are beyond the 16, unless they've also reduced that library for the PlayStation 2. And we don't know what PSP and PSP generation games there are. And also, a lot of the best PSP games were re-released on the PlayStation 3. Oh, guess what? Those are only available via cloud streaming. They've never been re-released. They've never been ported forward. In the video I made about the problems I have with the service, it's that they need to at least port forward the gems, right? Get the God of War collection ported forward. Get the games that need to be on PlayStation 4 and available into the future there. The Sly Cooper collection, the Jak and Daxter collection, the Eco and... they remade Shadow of the Colossus on PS4. I actually like that one a lot. But what about Eco or Ico or however you say it? There's a lot of great games on PlayStation 3 that are just like stuck on my PS3 box. It's very frustrating as somebody who really has a lot of love for the PlayStation 3 generation of games and PlayStation 2 generation of games. Thankfully, at least some of the generations, though we don't know what games are going to be included in these packages, are going to be downloadable. And then so they offer cloud streaming for those games, and then time-limited game trials will also be offered in this tier so consumers can try select games before they buy. I hate all things that are timed trials. It's not something I like. I've never seen anybody praise this, even though I continually see online, well, what about when everybody was praising EA for doing time trials? When did that happen? I never went above and beyond praising EA for their trials. There was one time I used an EA trial. It was for Anthem. They did the Anthem trial, and I don't even know if that timed. It was like you got access to it a few hours earlier or something like that, and Anthem ended up bombing, right? That's the only time I've ever used the service, ever. But I never recall going out of my way to praise EA for doing timed demos. And I'm not going to praise PlayStation for doing it and locking it behind the most expensive tier of their plan. Time trials should be free. It should be a free thing that they offer. Even Nintendo, who has a worse option than you, offers free trials. Like, oh my goodness, you have a worse plan than Nintendo. Anyway, games that cost lower than those amounts are not required to create time limited. Well, thank God the indie developers don't have to add extra development time. Glad they thought about the indies. But those AAAs, hey, give us our bespoke 2-hour demo so we can sell PlayStation Plus subscriptions. Many developers were informed about the new policy via an update to Sony's developer portal. Our sources indicate they have not received any other communication about this change. The good news is these requirements are not retroactive and do not apply to upcoming PlayStation VR titles. The less great news is that if you're a developer planning to release on the PlayStation Store in the future, there might be a few of those now, you now need to budget time and resources to create these new timed trials. There is some flexibility as part of Sony's policy. Developers have up until 3 months after their game's launch on the PlayStation Store to release their timed trials. Trials are also only required to be available to PlayStation Plus premium users for at least 12 months. Sony is also open to releasing custom game demos instead of time-limited game trials, but these will only be approved on a case-by-case basis. Developers are also still free to publish free weekends, game trials, or custom demos that can be accessed by all PlayStation owners. This new policy seems to be a mixed bag for all developers planning to release on PlayStation. On the one hand, large publishers like Activision Blizzard, 2K Games, or Sony's in-house studios will likely have the resources needed to create these time-limited game trials and stand to benefit from PlayStation Plus premium subscriptions. On the other hand, if your game is hovering just over the wholesale $34 price point, you're probably working with fewer resources than your competitors, and 2 hours may be a significant chunk of your game's content. Savvy developers can maximize those trials into opportunities to acquire new players, but with no promise of payout at the end, it could risk being a lot of work for limited payoff. I don't understand how Sony keeps implementing bad policies and getting away with it and then being praised for it. So the tweet, and I won't name the person, but I'm sure everybody knows who it is by now. The tweet that really set me off about this was this. In this new report about Sony offering 2-hour trials on every game priced at $34 or higher on the PlayStation Store for PlayStation Premium is true, that is ridiculously pro-consumer and truly an insane value. Something's insane about this tweet because none of that, it's not ridiculously pro-consumer at all. If it was available to everybody for free, that would be ridiculously pro-consumer. But locking something behind a $18 a month paywall or $120 a year fee, I don't see that as pro-consumer. Like, that's just a bizarre way to phrase it. Insane value. Two-hour game demo. Well, let's see how their game demos have gone in the past. Sony adds game trials to PS5, but there's a catch. This is from October. This is just a few months ago. Death Stranding. Let's see. Okay, yeah, you can get the game. Oh, what's it say here? 5-hour trial available for Sackboy, a big adventure. The details to redeem. You can click time trial period. 5 hours from the time you click download trial. Wait, what? These demos start when you click download? 5 hours from the time you click download trial via console for Sackboy. Interesting. How long does a game like Death Stranding take to download? Oh, look at this. 3 hours, 116 minutes left for Eurogamer. Great. The small print also mentions 1 trial per account per game. The game trial only applies to the PlayStation 5 versions of games. The trials are only available for a limited amount of time, and the fine print continues. So this was in October. I have to imagine this is them testing the trial service to see what happens. Do users convert into purchases? How does it work? What is the response to this? And I hope you said it sucks, because if you did, there is a potential that it will be better when you get it, if you've subscribed to the highest price tier for PlayStation. They say it's a cool new feature for PlayStation 5, and I hope it's extended to more games. But the decision to start the timer from the moment you hit download is horrible, and I hope Sony has a change of heart on that. You know what was one interesting thing about the demo? I didn't have to pay anything to access it. It was just a demo. You could just have it. It was free. Sure, it wasn't great and it could be improved, but I didn't have to pay $18 a month to access it. Anyway, what else did I want to talk about? I'm just like, this has been bothering me all day. So I tweeted the following, because I just imagine a world where this was true. I wish Microsoft charged me $10 more to play on Xbox Series X. You currently have to pay $70 to play on your PlayStation 5 for, Rumble on your controller and the 4K texture packs. But we've had that conversation on this channel over the last year or so, right? You feel like the additional value is there. Fair enough. Imagine if Xbox did it. What would the response be then? It would be negative. Spoiler warning. Put 2-hour demos exclusively behind a paywall. Sure, developers are still free to do that on a whim and release that to the general public. But if you want to access the guaranteed 2-hour demo, that is exclusively behind their most expensive tier. And no, I do not think that is a good thing. It's like Steam has free demos. Nintendo has free demos. Xbox has free demos. What are you doing? What are you doing? And made the 360 library streaming only. That would be amazing and super pro-consumer. It's not. Figuring out how to extract as much money as possible from your fan base is not pro-consumer. Well, on the other hand, you are touting record-breaking sales figures year over year. So why do your consumers have to pay $10 more for their games, pay for their 2-hour trials? They have to pay to stream old games. You can't even download them. It's frustrating. And then people say I'm just being a fanboy. You know what PlayStation did that has been good in the last month? They created a game preservation team. That should be commended. In my opinion, they've largely fixed the issues with Gran Turismo because we said, hey, this is BS. So they fixed it. And when we see stuff that we think is BS, like we are seeing with the premium tier, we need to call them on it. Developers are probably going to call them on it because they are not going to be happy about having to do that additional work on the game. And consumers should call them on it. That's my 2 cents. Bye, everybody. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Thank you to all of the members. I'm like, this one really got under my skin today. Hit that join button if you want to become a member and support this channel. It's totally optional. Guess what? You can watch these videos for free if you want. If you choose to become a member, you can, though. Insanity to me. Subscribe, hit that bell if you like my videos. Every once in a while, man, I get really fired up about a topic, and this was one of them. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate all of you for watching. Have a good one.